The morning sun stretched across the wooden planks of the railway station, glinting off dust motes that floated lazily in the spring breeze. Lydia Hawthorne clutched her trunk, her knuckles white against the worn leather. This was it, her first step into a life she had only dreamed of in letters and faded sketches. The station buzzed with activity, townsfolk carrying parcels, merchants calling out wares, horses stamping and snorting on the adjacent platform. Every sound heightened her pulse, every movement sent a shiver of uncertainty down her spine. She had arrived in the Wild West, a stranger in a land both harsh and alluring. Her prairie dress, modest and carefully stitched, brushed against her ankles. Its deep blue fabric contrasted sharply with the warm wood and spring greenery around her. She adjusted the lace collar nervously, aware of every pair of eyes that lingered. Whispered comments reached her ears, snippets of curiosity and speculation. Mail-order bride, they say, too young for this frontier life. Lydia's stomach twisted. She had not anticipated such scrutiny. From the crowd she glimpsed him, a lone figure standing near a horse-drawn carriage. Griffin, by the way the sun caught his rugged features, looked every bit the part of a frontier cowboy. Broad-shouldered, dust-coated boots, sun-bleached hair under a wide-brimmed hat, and eyes that held both caution and authority. He scanned the station with measured calm, yet Lydia could feel the intensity of his gaze, a silent question hanging between them. Was he kind, or was he a man hardened beyond the reach of sentiment? And then she noticed her small observer. Emmy, barely 6, peered shyly from behind her father's coat. Large, curious eyes, a slight frown of both curiosity and apprehension. Lydia felt a tug at her heart, a mixture of fear and something she did not yet understand. The child's gaze was unwavering, as if measuring her very soul. Emmy's presence was immediate, pressing, and in that instant Lydia felt the full weight of what she had stepped into. Not just a new home, but a family that might reject her, a little girl who would not wait politely for introductions. Griffin approached, boots thudding softly against the wooden boards. His voice was calm but edged with caution. "Are you the woman from the ad?" His eyes never wavered from hers, searching, assessing. Lydia nodded, swallowing a lump in her throat. "Yes, sir, I am Lydia Hawthorne." Her voice sounded foreign to her own ears, small and uncertain amidst the bustling station. It was then that Emmy took her first step forward, tiny feet pattering against the wood. "Be my mama," she whispered, voice trembling slightly, eyes wide and earnest. Lydia froze, terror and uncertainty crashing over her. She had expected letters, expectations, perhaps polite smiles, but not a child's heartfelt plea, not such immediate demands of the heart. Griffin remained silent, his expression unreadable, and the weight of the moment pressed upon Lydia. She lowered herself onto a nearby wooden bench, the rough grain pressing against her palms. Emmy climbed beside her without hesitation, curling her small frame against Lydia's side, seeking reassurance. Lydia's heart hammered, unsure if she had the strength to meet the child's need, unsure if she herself belonged in this place. The distant whistle of an arriving train cut through the air, a stark reminder that time moved relentlessly forward, whether she was ready or not. The hum of anticipation in the station became a low, thrumming tension in her chest. Lydia watched the passengers disembark and the horses shift nervously in their harnesses, yet her focus remained solely on the small, trembling figure beside her and the tall, silent man who watched intently. Sunlight flickered across Emmy's face, illuminating soft curls and hopeful eyes. Lydia exhaled slowly, gripping the child's hand in a tentative gesture, testing her courage. For the first time, she sensed the fragile thread connecting them, a thread that might bind them into a family or snap if mishandled. In the chaos of the station, with voices, wheels, and hoofbeats all blending into a chaotic symphony, Lydia realized this was only the beginning. Her new life had arrived with the arrival of a train, a father, and a little girl who refused to wait. She sat on the wooden bench, trembling, holding the child's small hand, and silently prayed she had the courage to meet the challenge. The spring air carried both uncertainty and the faint scent of wildflowers, a promise that even in this rough frontier, life could bloom in unexpected ways. And in that moment, Lydia understood. The journey she had embarked upon was more than physical. It was a journey of the heart, and every step would test her, frighten her, and perhaps transform her in ways she could not yet imagine. The wagon creaked under Lydia's careful steps as she followed Griffin and his small daughter Emmy out of the station. The spring sun warmed her back, and the scent of fresh hay mingled with the faint dust of the prairie. Birds chirped from a nearby fence post, yet the harmony of the morning did little to calm the nervous flutter in her chest. Every step toward the ranch felt heavier than the last. She was a stranger in a rugged land, and the eyes of father and daughter weighed upon her with quiet judgment. The ranch sprawled across a gentle slope, its wooden fences weathered by wind and sun. Horses grazed lazily in the corral, their tails flicking at flies, while chickens clucked and pecked at the dry earth near the barn. Lydia noted every detail: the way the boards of the barn were warped, the soft sway of the hayloft ladder, the scent of leather saddles mingled with wildflowers in bloom. Here life was raw and honest, and she felt suddenly fragile, like a delicate bloom amid the harsh prairie soil. Emmy's small hand found hers before Lydia could speak, guiding her steps as if instinctively trusting her. The child's gaze was intense, almost probing, and Lydia sensed that Emmy's acceptance or rejection might determine her own. Every glance the little girl cast was weighted with expectation. Emmy did not ask for words, she demanded understanding. Griffin's manner was quietly deliberate. He gave Lydia small, practical tests: fetching water from the well, brushing down a horse, stacking hay in the barn. Each chore was designed to assess her, though he never spoke of it. Lydia moved through them with trembling hands, learning quickly but aware that every misstep might confirm his doubts. She noticed the scars on Griffin's hands, calluses hardened by years of labor, faint white lines etched like stories on his skin. Each mark spoke of loss, of hardship, of battles fought in silence. She wondered what pain lay behind his steady gaze. The day unfolded in quiet tension. Lydia offered Emmy a smile. The child watched her without immediate warmth, observing the new woman who had dared enter their lives. Emmy's eyes flickered with a mixture of hope and challenge, as though measuring whether Lydia's heart could endure the weight of responsibility. Lydia's own fear whispered constantly in her ear. What if she failed? What if Emmy hated her? What if Griffin never softened toward her? Late afternoon brought a small reprieve. Lydia found herself sitting on a fallen log near the corral, dust motes catching golden sunlight. Emmy, after some hesitation, climbed onto her lap and whispered a tentative, almost shy question. "Let's live together." The words trembled in the air between them, fragile yet insistent. Lydia felt her heart clench. She wanted to reply, to promise, but uncertainty held her tongue. She feared overstepping, feared a bond that might not yet be deserved. Griffin observed from a distance, leaning against the corral post, arms crossed, expression unreadable. His silence was more daunting than words, each moment stretching the tension until it became almost unbearable. Lydia caught glimpses of something deeper in his eyes, a flicker of curiosity, a trace of longing, a shadow of past heartbreak. She realized he too had been tested by life in ways she could only imagine. The ranch, the land, the child, they were his past and present, all weighed against the unknown future. As the sun dipped lower, the wind stirred gently, lifting strands of Lydia's hair across her face and rustling the skirts of her prairie dress. She spoke softly to Emmy, recounting a simple story from her childhood, tales of distant hills, spring flowers, and quiet moments in the countryside. The girl's eyes widened, curiosity and trust slowly breaking through her guarded demeanor. Emmy's fingers clutched Lydia's hand, small but insistent, seeking connection. Lydia understood. The child was her bridge to Griffin, and only through patient care could that bridge hold. Evening settled over the ranch, painting the sky in streaks of rose and gold. Lydia prepared a small meal, her hands steadying as she chopped vegetables and stirred stew. Emmy hovered nearby, watching every movement. Griffin finally spoke, his voice low but steady, asking practical questions, his tone free of warmth yet not unkind. Lydia answered honestly, demonstrating skill and courage in small, tangible ways. Each interaction slowly shifted the balance, but tension remained. The emotional walls around Griffin and Emmy had not yet crumbled, they were simply reconsidering. As darkness fell, Lydia lay on a rough cot in the guest room, the sounds of the ranch settling into quiet rhythm outside the window. She replayed the day in her mind, every glance, every word, every hesitant touch. A fragile hope began to grow, though tempered by fear. She realized that acceptance here would not come easy, and yet for the first time she felt a small spark of possibility. The spring breeze drifted through the open window, carrying the scent of wildflowers and the promise of growth. And Lydia knew she was not merely a visitor in this home, she was on the precipice of becoming part of something greater. The night deepened and Griffin watched from the porch, silent against the darkening sky. Lydia's hand, still tingling from Emmy's grasp, reminded him that perhaps some hearts, when tested, reveal themselves stronger than expected. But would hers withstand the final trials that the Wild West would demand? The answer remained uncertain. Suspense lingered, drawing both characters and audience forward into the unknown as the first steps toward trust, love, and family quietly unfolded. Morning broke over the ranch with a soft golden light spilling across wooden fences, grazing horses, and the small garden Lydia had begun to admire the day before. The spring air carried a delicate scent of wildflowers and freshly turned earth. Lydia stepped out of the guest room, her heart heavy with both hope and anxiety. Today, she realized, would test more than her courage, it would test her belonging. Emmy ran ahead, her small boots kicking up dust, and clutched Lydia's hand as though the world itself might vanish if they were separated. Peaceful morning shattered with a sudden clamor. Smoke curled from the barn, thick and acrid, and the frantic clattering of hooves and clanging metal echoed across the ranch. A fire had broken out, likely from the lantern left near the hayloft. Horses, panicking, and chickens scattered across the yard. Lydia's breath caught, but instinct overrode fear. Without hesitation, she grabbed a bucket of water, her hands trembling only briefly, and ran toward the barn. Emmy followed, crying out, "Mama, be careful." Griffin arrived moments later, boots pounding, his face taut with worry. "Stay with her," he barked to Emmy, but she refused to leave Lydia's side. The little girl clung to her as Lydia sprinted into the barn, dodging flames and smoke, guiding frightened animals toward safety. Lydia's every move was precise, her fear transformed into fierce determination. She worked alongside Griffin, and for the first time the rigid walls around his heart began to crumble. He saw not a timid mail-order bride, but a woman with courage, compassion, and the instinct of a mother. Emmy's small voice rang out again, soft but insistent. "I knew you would stay." Lydia's chest tightened. In that moment she understood that the bond she had feared, the fragile trust she had longed for, was already forming. The child's faith, unwavering and pure, made the risks worthwhile. She felt a warmth spread through her, a quiet certainty that she had a place in this family. But the trials of the day were not yet finished. From the distant road, a rival rancher approached, a man known for stirring trouble and questioning Griffin's choices. He sneered at the sight of Lydia among the ranch's activity. "A mail-order bride, here you're wasting your time," he called, his voice dripping with disdain. The challenge was clear. Griffin's household, already tested by fire, now faced scrutiny from the outside world. Lydia straightened, her nerves steel-hard beneath the soft prairie dress. She stepped forward, hand gripping a rope to steady herself against the wind that carried the rival's jeers. "I am not here to fail," she said, voice clear and unwavering. "I am here to help protect this ranch, this family, and this little girl." Her words carried weight, and the man faltered, unprepared for such quiet conviction. Griffin's jaw eased into a half-smile, recognition dawning that Lydia's place was no longer uncertain. It was earned through courage and heart. The rival rode away, muttering under his breath, and the dust settled over the prairie once more. Emmy jumped into Lydia's arms, hugging her tightly. "Be my mama forever," she whispered, eyes shining with joy. Lydia's own tears came unbidden, but they were not tears of fear, they were of love, relief, and belonging. Griffin stepped closer, placing a hand over Lydia's, silent acknowledgement passing between them. The unspoken bond, tested and proven, had been forged in moments of fire, challenge, and trust. Evening fell, painting the sky with strokes of rose and gold. Lydia, Griffin, and Emmy returned to the wooden bench at the railway station, the same one where their journey had begun. Dust motes danced in the fading sunlight, the gentle spring breeze tugged at Lydia's dress, and the distant sound of a train whistle hinted at adventure beyond the horizon. The small family sat together, hands entwined, each aware of the fragile yet unbreakable thread that now connected them. Lydia breathed deeply, the wind carrying the scent of wildflowers and the promise of new beginnings. "I think this is where I belong," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Griffin's rough hand rested lightly on her shoulder, his eyes softened, and Emmy nestled closer, finally at ease. The trials of the past days, the fear, the doubt, the fire, the rival, had led them to this moment, a quiet, cinematic culmination of courage, love, and acceptance. As darkness settled and the first stars blinked above, Lydia, Griffin, and Emmy watched the horizon. The prairie stretched endlessly, wild and beautiful, a reminder that life in the West was both harsh and full of wonder. Their story, tested by fire, fear, and challenge, had arrived at a place of connection and hope. The audience is left with hearts full, inspired by the strength of a woman who dared, the loyalty of a child who believed, and the steadfast courage of a man who learned to open his heart. The wind carried one final whisper across the prairie that family, once uncertain and fractured, could endure. Lydia smiled, Emmy's fingers in hers, Griffin's hand firm yet gentle. The Wild West had tested them, and in return had gifted them love, trust, and a bond that would not be broken. The cinematic story ends on a note of quiet triumph, suspense resolved, and the emotional arc complete, leaving the audience fulfilled, inspired, and deeply moved.